Huh? Pointer unda? Itiche. So, good morning one and all. And before I start my session, I would like to apologize that I was a bit late, the train was late. I couldn't help it. So, this morning I am going to talk about artificial intelligence, how it is used in the field of neuroscience. Generally what happens is people who are working in the area of artificial intelligence, machine learning, deep learning, etc., they are interested to work in medical field as well, right? But unfortunately there are cases where we do not know what is there in the medical field, and medical field people do not know what exactly is machine learning or AI, right. So, I did my PhD in computational neuroscience, which deals with the way in which the the brain computes, how it decodes and encodes information. So, based upon that knowledge, I later on shifted to machine learning, which in fact uses the concepts of neuroscience, neural networks in particular. So, that is how, like, nowadays I am working in the amalgamation or or a way in which AI can be used for applications of neuroscience. So, let me start. These are the contents of today's lecture, like introduction. I will start with the introduction and then AI for neuroscience, applications, and talk about research in neuroscience, future areas, conclusion. So, first of all, neuroscience happens to be a well known subject related to the study of nervous system, and how it studies the nervous system in the way it develops, and how actions or how we take decisions, all that is studied in case of neuroscience field. Now, neuroscientists mainly they focus on the impact of the behavior and cognitive functions. Like generally what they say is, when the way we talk or the way we walk, if it is not according to a normal person, that means we are not in sync with the normal people, right. So, based upon the general behavior and cognitive functions, neuroscientists they come to a conclusion about a person, and mainly what they focus on is these neurological, psychiatric and neurodevelopmental disorders. Psychiatrists or otherwise neuroscientists, they are mainly interested in these three categories. And since it is so interesting to see or learn how the brain works and to mimic the brain, nowadays neuroscience has become an interdisciplinary field which comprises of combining it with mathematics, linguistics, engineering, computer science and chemistry, philosophy, etc. Okay? So, psychology and medicine are always there with it. Now, let us see the major branches of modern neuroscience. The first branch is affective neuroscience. In most of the cases, research actually is done on laboratory animals. Mainly what they do is they work on rats or otherwise they work on monkeys. When I did my research, I worked on a monkey animal, and we had collaborated with the National Brain Research Center, Manesar. So, affective neuroscience actually studies the behavior of emotions, how they behave, neurons how they behave when they are faced with emotions. Next one is behavioral neuroscience. It studies the biological basis of behavior. And the next is cognitive neuroscience. It studies cognitive functions of mainly human beings, because we have a component in our brain which is not present in other animals, and this is called as the frontal lobe. This frontal lobe is actually responsible for our actions, our decisions, or whatever we do in our life, okay, which is not present. Like whenever someone makes us angry, doesn't mean that we get angry or aggressive. We know how to control ourselves, right? So that control over ourselves is provided by the component called as frontal lobe, okay, and this frontal lobe component is studied in this cognition. So generally people who are depressed, those who are stressed, who are in anxiety, etc., their cognitive functions will be very less. Then the fourth one is social neuroscience. This is related to the humanities which I was talking earlier. So it's an interdisciplinary field dedicated to understanding how biological systems implement social processes and their behavior. So then related to computer science we have two, which is neuroinformatics, okay. This integrates data across all areas of neuroscience, and it helps understand the brain and treat various diseases. Mainly neuroinformatics, it works on data sets. Neuroinformatics works on the brain data. This brain data can be in the form of EEG signals, it can be in the form of MRI data, CAT scan, PET scan, as well as now recently people have shifted to fMRI also. fMRI mainly deals with the scan of the brain. It does not deal with the scan of the other parts of the body, okay. And what fMRI does is it calculates the blood oxygen level in the brain. Suppose if your components are all working fine, then blood will be flowing in those components. Suppose if one component of the brain is not working properly, then blood won't be going into that part, blood won't be passing. So that's how neuroscientists or neurologists, they come to know that there is a problem in so and so area of the brain. So that's all done in neuroinformatics. And as I was telling you, they acquire data, share it, publish it, and store information, analyze it, model it, and simulate it. And the last one is computational neuroscience. It actually helps us in understanding how the brain computes, uses computers to simulate and model brain functions. And it applies some techniques from mathematics, physics, and other computational fields in order to study how the brain functions. Can any of you tell me how many neurons do we have in our brain? Millions? Huh? How many neurons we have? 0? Millions or billions? Billions. Okay. Yes, we do have billions of neurons in our brain, but apart from that count, we also have more than a billion number of connections between these neurons. And anywhere if the connection we lose, if we lose any connection anywhere, then that particular component or that part of the body will not be functioning. That component won't be functioning. Now coming to the main part, AI for neuroscience, or in fact neuroscience for AI, let's see how these two are interrelated to each other. So artificial intelligence and neuroscience, they are augmenting each other like Siamese twins. You know what are Siamese twins? AI and neuroscience, they are correlating each other or complementing each other like Siamese twins. What do you mean by Siamese twins? They have same body or some component which is common to both the twins, right? Yeah. So that's how AI and neuroscience actually work with each other, drawing lifeblood from each other. Like for example, our artificial neural network is a live example of the biological neuron. Yes or no? Has anyone taught neural networks? Yes? Has anyone heard of neural networks? Yes. So in that, the first thing that we learn is about a neuron, right? Before talking about a neuron, artificial neuron, we say that it is derived from, its function is derived from biological neuron. Yes or no? The way the biological neuron works, that's how your artificial neuron is made to work. And AI, why it is developed actually? What is the purpose of developing AI? No purpose of developing AI? Can anyone define AI? No? AI is machines are made to mimic human behavior. So, to mimic human behavior means we first of all need to learn how human beings work, correct? So, that is why it is a interrelated field, like AI and neuroscience, they both are interrelated, and it says both of them drive each other to provide the world with life-changing revelations and incredible innovations. We will see some examples where you will get some idea. If you are research scholars, most probably in your first year where your problem statement hasn't been defined, probably you can use the coming applications in your research. So now neuroscience as a driving force behind AI, and since the advent of AI, we can discover that neuroscience has played a very important role in this field, and we know that AI is designated to emulate human intelligence, right? And for this we have used something called as neural networks, correct? Neural networks are the basis where neuroscience and AI are working together. And while building artificial human intelligence, it's not so easy. Like for example, we can't have a robot which has consciousness, correct? Consciousness in the sense like it should know what is right and what is wrong, correct? So that so far we haven't been able to develop, but otherwise other things we are able to perform using a artificial intelligence robot. So now AI for neuroscience. We have seen how neuroscience has inspired artificial intelligence, but how is AI helpful for neuroscience? How is AI helpful for neuroscience? In no way. There is no way. What? It is used to study the brain activities. It can predict whether a person has Alzheimer's, whether a person has any mental disorders. For all these things, AI is very helpful. AI in the sense machine learning. Mostly machine learning we use for classifying, predicting various mental disorders. And nowadays people are started using deep learning also. So now the main thing is, apart from deep learning, we also have another concept called as reinforcement learning. Reinforcement learning can also be used for cognitive behavioral therapy. Those people who are suffering from stress and anxiety, those people are given some tools of reinforcement learning. Reinforcement learning mainly depends upon reward based learning. Reward based learning in the sense, if suppose a robot is standing in my place, okay, robot is standing in my place and I want the robot to go downstairs till that speaker. I want the robot to travel till that speaker. So I tell the robot, the condition is that you shouldn't hit any obstacle on the way. The minute you hit the obstacle, you will be issued a penalty, okay? And if you go smoothly on the way and reach the goal, then you will be rewarded. So learning is actually in this case reward based. What does the robot try to do then? First of all, it will take a random path. In the beginning, it will take a random path. When it takes a random path, it is sure that it will hit an obstacle, right? It remembers the location where the obstacle is present. It remembers where the obstacle is present. Next time, what it does, it tries to avoid that direction. It takes another path. Maybe it may hit another obstacle, it remembers that. So that ways, it traverses in different paths and ultimately tries to maximize the reward, like where it tries to avoid maximum obstacles, okay. So this is an example for reinforcement learning, and the same technique is used for people suffering with mental disorders or maybe depression. They are treated with by showing some their favorite things to do, activities to do. Then we tell them that if you are doing this activity, then today evening we will go out for dinner, or we will take you for a movie. That ways we are giving them a reward, so that positivity is instilled into them. So that's another area where AI is rescuing the neuropsychological disorders. Now coming to the amalgamation, AI and neuroscience happen to be a symbiotic relationship. That means the concept of designing AI models to have them mimic the human nervous system was mainly possible because of the neuroscientific research. And artificial neural networks of today are modeled on the network of nerves running throughout our bodies. And neuroscience has made replication possible in today's life. And similarly, AI systems are helping us paint an increasingly accurate picture of how the human brain functions. Because nowadays scientists are like maximum trying to mimic the human brain in its function, not just only the brain, any component of your body. They are trying to develop artificial eyes which can see. They are trying to develop artificial ears which can hear. Artificial limbs are already there. It's under neuroprosthetics. Okay. Now let's discuss applications, and this is where I would like you to concentrate more, because these are the areas in which you can find your future problem statement. So as I was telling you, AI and neuroscience both are actually a virtuous circle. Neuroscience draws its, AI draws its inspiration for neuroscience, and and artificial intelligence gives a lot of programming convenience for neuroscientists. And now let's look at the first application, AI in seizure disorders. Mainly seizures are nothing but fits. You call them as fits. So what generally happens is, in case of capturing fits, or in case of trying to get data for this particular application, what they do is neuroscientists or neurologists, they collect data from EEG machine. Have you seen any EEG machine? No? Okay, I will show you one in our slides. So an EEG machine is nothing but you will be having a small machine and a cap with number of electrodes will be put on your head, okay, and that machine will be taking the reading from various parts of the brain, and then readings will be coming on the machine. It's similar to ECG machine, like electrodes are put on your heart, right? Same way here electrodes are put on your head, okay. So to capture that particular data, we use EEG machines for predicting seizures, okay. And so far the AI techniques that are developed, they are giving an accuracy of almost 90%, that this person, so and so person, will be getting seizure in the coming future. It can easily predict, okay, it can easily predict. And this automatic seizure detection, it uses this EEG, electroencephalogram technique, okay, and advanced artificial intelligence techniques, which are used. I mean, EEG data is first pre-processed to remove the noise effects, okay, noise artifacts, and then the pre-processed data is fed into the machine learning model. Now this is about your seizure disorders. Then AI in oncology. The main thing that I am going to talk about is neuro-oncology. I am talking about neuro-oncology here. So we have machine learning techniques that provide opportunity to develop non-invasive and automated glioma grading tools. Glioma is nothing but a tumor. So you can detect the tumor first of all that is there, but the grade in which it is. There are different stages of tumor, the cancer, right? Yes or no? So those grades also can be defined or can be detected using machine learning technique. And this is done using multimodal MRI data. Multimodal MRI data. So from different models of your parts of your brain, you can gather the MRI images. From the images, you can detect the tumor and then do an analysis of the tumor in which grade it is, okay. Then next is, results from these ML algorithms have shown that they were able to estimate the survival of the human being between 6 months and 3 years. So based upon the tumor, they are able to tell how long the person will be able to survive. How long the person will be able to survive. And another application of AI, as I was telling you, is neuro-oncology, which is outcome prediction. That means you have deep learning techniques that can be used for predicting tumors in an early stage of brain metastasis, okay, sorry, okay. So metastasis is when the brain is degrading, okay. So you can detect the tumor in an early stage using deep learning techniques. Then the other one is AI in neurotraumatology or traumatic brain injury. This is another field where you can think of working. So machine learning models, they have been developed for predicting mortality following trauma in motorcycle riders. Like whenever any motorcycle rider, he faces an accident and the brain is injured, so the injury can also be assessed based on the MRI images. It can be assessed how long will that person live, like whether he will live or not. That is what is called as mortality, okay. And artificial neural networks have been used to predict outcome following the head injury, and ANN significantly outperformed regression models and clinicians also on multiple performance measures. So clinicians also could not tell whether this person will survive or not, but ANN was able to tell that. And the other thing is, applying AI to this traumatic brain injury has been fruitfully researched over the past years. And advanced machine learning algorithms like deep learning, they can analyze brain scans and relevant clinical data from TBI patients to quickly and accurately predict the survival and recovery at less than 6 months of the injury. So, this is what they do. Patients that suffer from traumatic brain injury, this is the first result. Then patient's data, it is entered into the AI application. Then algorithm 1, it is trained in this component where the injury has occurred. Okay, it tries to see what is the problem. And then this is another component where the injury has also occurred. So, both the outputs, then they give you the accuracy, or they tell you whether the person will survive the injury or not. Now, coming to AI in neurodegeneration, this field actually studies Parkinson's disease, what they call Alzheimer's, and other diseases like ALS. So, in case of Parkinson's or in case of Alzheimer's, your brain starts degrading, the tissues in the brain, they start eating up, okay. And if you notice, this is a normal brain and this is a diseased brain, that is neurodegeneration has happened. See the difference. This one is neurodegenerated and this one is the normal brain. Now, what happens is that when neurodegeneration happens, the blood won't be flowing into the brain, dopamine won't be developed. Dopamine is actually a, what they call neurotransmitter, okay, that needs to be sent across various paths. Yeah, so dopamine pathways we call it as. So, in case of Parkinson's and in case of Alzheimer's, the dopamine actually reduces, and that's when the brain doesn't start working properly, okay. And when it doesn't work properly, obviously our hands, legs, our memory, everything will be going, right. So, that is a main problem. Now, how does AI come to the rescue of neurodegeneration diseases? First of all, given a set of people, their MRI scans, okay, what we can do is, we can identify who has a neurodegenerative disease, who doesn't have a neurodegenerative disease, that is classification. Second is, if suppose a person has the disease and that person can easily be predicted, like this person will be going into stage 2 or stage 3 in couple of 3 months or maybe in 1 year based upon the progression in the MRI scans, that also can be studied. So far no one has done this and we are presently doing it. Like we take the MRI scans, okay, in the span of 3 months of the same person, we see how the disease is progressing. Is it a slow progress or is it a faster progress? Once we see that, then we train our algorithm for detecting if it's a fast or whether it is a slow progression, and based upon that we will be telling the machine that if it is a slow progression, tell that it will take 1 year to reach the next stage. If it's a faster progression, then tell that after 3 months he will be going into the next stage. That's how we work in this neurodegeneration. And next is neurovascular diseases. I guess many of you might not have worked in this area. Most of us are familiar with Alzheimer's and with Parkinson's. Neurovascular is something different, like we use CT scans for checking hemorrhagic patients, that means blood clots, okay. If there are any blood clots in the brain or inside the veins, any part of the body, for that you shall be using AI technique to detect it. So, for detecting clots, okay, or brain hemorrhages and lesions, everything, or even infarcts. The term hemorrhagic infarcts basically means your that particular brain component, it lost its blood, okay, and it became dead. Infarct basically means the tissue of that part is dead. Tissues are dead in that component, and if tissues die in that particular part of the brain, then the other neurons have to be trained to take that task up. But some neurons will be able to take that task, but in some areas it won't be able to take. Like for example, eye, if you consider eye region, what happens is we don't have neurons. If they die inside, we don't have other neurons to take the task of seeing. Okay? So, that is a big problem. And we can also measure the ischemic stroke also onset using the AI technique. And next is AI in neuro rehabilitation. This is called as neuroprosthetics. This is another one area where we are currently working in. Like I have a couple of PhD students, one is working in neurodegeneration discovery stages and the other one is in neuroprosthetics thing. So, neuro rehabilitation, basically what we are trying to do is trying to create brain machine interfaces. Brain machine interfaces, that is people who can't see or maybe people who don't have hands to feel, they can still feel and they can still see just by using their brain, which is connected to a computer. Okay, you have to just think that I am seeing something and that will be displayed in front of your eyes. And when you feel also, you don't have to raise your hand like this, and people who don't have hands also, they can't feel, right? But just by thinking that I am moving my right arm, my nerves in the right arm, wherever till wherever they are, they will start moving. They will start moving. So that's one beautiful area in which AI is actually working. And then AI in spinal cord injury. So, in general, spinal cord is related is connected to the brain. It is connected to the brain via a component called as a stem. It's present right here. Okay. So, from here the brain actually signals and then it goes right into the spinal cord. And if the spinal cord is injured, yeah, that's what. So, researchers actually have used machine learning algorithm in order to decode the neural activity and control activations of forearm muscles through a custom built electrical stimulation system. And this system helped a 24-year-old man who had previously lost function in his hands and arms due to the spinal cord injury. What is his name? I forgot. Stephen Hawking. How he used to manage? Stephen Hawking. Has anyone heard of him? He was also bound to wheelchair, right? But he used to think with his brain and make the wheelchair move. He was unable to move his limbs and legs, correct? He used to think here, he used to speak. He used to think, he used to move his wheelchair, turn it in different directions. That is what is this AI used for. It was a patented wheelchair actually, which works according to his brain. And now coming to the next part, this is called as the neuroscience tool. The name of the tool is Hybrot, that is hybrid robot. This was developed by Stephen Potter at Georgia Institute of Technology in 2003. Okay. So this robot, can any of you please tell me how a robot is built, with what a robot is built? Sensors and sensors and actuators and wires, wireless, chips, correct? Everything is programmed. Yes or no, madam? But this robot is built using human tissues of a rat. A robot may actually malfunction because of the programming that we do, or it may wear off. But this particular robot, it won't wear off, or it won't die, or it won't go for any repair, because it's made up of rat tissues, that is living being tissues. Now let's see how this robot is working. Play the video, please. Can't play, but it was there in my system. It might not have been transferred properly. Sorry? Enable editing. Upstairs. Upstairs, sir. పైన ఎనేబుల్ ఎడిటింగ్ ఉంది చూడండి. దాంతో పాటు లేదా రాదా? అది పాత జమానాలో కదా. అంటే మళ్ళీ ఇప్పుడు ఆ యూట్యూబ్ అదంతా అంటున్నారు కదా. డౌన్లోడ్ బట్ అది లేకుండా కూడా అయ్యింది. ఓకే, ఇది ఓల్డ్ వర్షన్ ఆఫ్ పీపీ పవర్ పాయింట్. ఓకే, వచ్చింది పోయింది. Sorry? Ida? Yeah. వచ్చింది కదా.
See some
So he is Professor Stephen Potter from Georgia Tech University, who has developed these layers of tissues from the rat and then programmed it to work as a robot. The tissues have been used to work as a robot. He has put it on a robot and then made the robot to work instead of those chips that you were talking about. యూట్యూబ్లో ఉంటుందా? అది హైబ్రోట్ అని యూట్యూబ్లో పెట్టండి. HYBROT. Okay. Can we start? Yeah, that's better, no?
This team takes neurons cultured from rat embryos, then grows them on.
Most computer simulations are limited to very simplistic neurons. What we have here in our culture dishes with real live, wet, squishy neurons with all their complexity is immensely much more complicated than anything we can simulate on today's computers.
Professor Steve Potter of the Georgia Institute of Technology designs and builds brains. Brains that are half living, half machine. Potter's team takes neurons cultured from rat embryos, then grows them on miniature plates of electrodes.
Here is a multi-electrode array culture dish. You can see some fluorescently labeled neurons growing on it. These are the electrodes with leads heading off to the electronics that we use to record from and stimulate the cells. These are all the axons and dendrites that represent the connections between the cells. Those connections form over the course of the first 4 hours in culture. You can see in this time lapse here connections forming. So those are the synaptic connections by which the neurons talk to each other, and we can film that conversation in progress using a calcium sensitive dye here. So here you can see the cells flashing. Every time the cell sends a signal to another cell, it has a little burst of calcium.
When the brain has grown, Potter sends information to it through the electrodes, and the brain responds. Those electrodes are connected to a computer that's wired up to a robot body, resulting in a new form of life. This is a hybrid, a robot controlled by living brain tissue. Its brains are in a refrigerator, but you can see its neurons react on the computer screen as its body finds its way around the lab bench. Like any animal, the hybrid has experiences and learns from them. In this case, how to navigate its environment. So the question is, could a hybrid ever become conscious?
Whether or not we could ever get to conscious cultured networks is a question which I would say we've already answered yes. We have culture dishes that are receiving inputs from the environment. They're responding to them in complicated ways. So they're conscious of their environment in some very rudimentary fashion, perhaps with more complicated interactions between different brain tissues and between the computer and the brain tissues. We could get to something that people would say is a high-level cognition, more like human consciousness.
But if one day a hybrid or a computer wakes up and realizes what and who it is, if a soul emerges from those wires, how would we know? We'll have to rely on conversation. If we ask the artificial brain, "Are you conscious?" and it persuades us that it is, we'll just have to take its word. But the same thing applies when we talk to other humans. We don't actually know that other people are conscious. They might just be zombies who are saying the right thing, but having no private, subjective experience.
So the main challenge here, like they have developed a human-like robot from the animals' living systems tissue, right? But the question that they were asking, or the challenge is, can this robot become conscious? Conscious means consciousness. Can it have consciousness? So the professor is saying, yeah, given in any particular environment, it knows how to react, right? So far we have taught a computer how to react. And the commenter in this particular video is saying that tomorrow one day when hybrid wakes up and realizes that what it is, means it is made up of these rat cells, right? And then if we want to know if it is conscious or not, we will just have to ask it. If it says, yes, I am conscious, that means we have to believe it. We don't have any other thing. Like if I ask you, have you understood? And if you say yes, what does it mean? Yes, sir. If I ask you and if you have understood and you say yes, that means I have to take your word, right? The same thing happens with the computer also. So we'll break now. After the break, we'll discuss some research areas where AI is used in neuroscience. Okay, that is actual techniques being used in neuroscience. Okay, I'll discuss my research paper as well with my PhD student.